We've obviously gone off to make other projects away from each other, but I've not really had an experience acting with anyone else like I have done with you. There's a real sort of like aliveness, I think, when I work with Timothy. That's how I feel.
Wow.
All right, and please welcome Timothée Chalamet.
What? I didn't know you were...
I didn't know this was live like
yeah.
this. Okay.
We're here.
What do you remember about the very first time you met?
Huh.
You won't remember the
I
first
do remember.
time.
It was a rehearsal in Los Angeles for Lady Bird. And I just remember
Yes, that's
Saoirse
when you were-
arriving with an assistant, and I thought that was very impressive.
I've never had an assistant. I also drive myself to work.
That's not my recollection.
Do you?
And, we had this rehearsal with Greta, and we're going to do a lot of blowing smoke tonight, so just get ready, y'all. But Saoirse, continues to be a legend, but already she was a legend then, and I'd worked with an actor named Emery Cohen, who had just worked with her probably the year before in Brooklyn or something, so I kept hearing this name, Saoirse, and didn't put two and two together when I saw the name spelled out, because I'm an ignorant American.
Yeah.
And then we got cracking, and I was just blown away immediately, just by her level of talent.
We were very lucky that we clicked straight away, I think. And we had Greta, who seemed to be, sort of from day one, she was so excited by whatever was happening between the two of us. I actually do remember that rehearsal now. I was still at that point where I was just like, oh great, someone gave me a job. Like, this is amazing. I was a huge fan of Greta's. I found her, not because of anything that she had sort of given off, but she was incredibly intimidating to me because I wanted to emulate her so much in her style, in the type of work that she made. And at that stage, I didn't even really know yet that like I would want to direct one day, but it was sort of in the back of my head, sort of percolating somewhere. Even though Lady Bird wasn't like an out and out comedy, the fact that it was more comedic than anything else was something that, again, really intimidated me because I just think it's like the hardest genre to pull off, especially if you're not a comedian. So I was very, very nervous the whole way through, which I feel like I spoke to you about. I didn't speak to many people about it, but I was very in my head on Lady Bird.
Wow, my memory is that the role fit like a glove to you.
I didn't feel like that at all. But I felt really relieved to have you there because even though you say that you're like a dumb American or whatever, I think the fact that, because you're not.
For sure.
You know, he's not. But having someone who had this sort of like European flair in the way that you did, and you were so sort of like unique and like nothing I'd ever met before, that was really refreshing for me, I think, to have someone there where I could be like, can we just like have a moan about everything today? I think I really needed that, so I clung to Timothy, whether he realized it or not.
This is all new information to me.
This is brand new information.
I love it.
And so how did Greta present to the two of you to do Little Women?
I sort of had to tell her that I was going to be in it because she hadn't sort of landed on me yet. We were at an event and you were doing stuff for Call Me By Your Name, and I was like, by the way, I'm obviously going to be Joe, right? She was like, I guess, sure. But I wasn't sure how you got involved. Did she just ask?
She did just ask.
Great.
But it was,
Great.
I was shooting The King in Budapest, and I had met with Denis a couple times about Dune, so that was really the thing I was chasing and really excited about. And then Greta called me about it, and she was already such a fabulous director just off of Lady Bird, just the experience working with her. You know, on Lady Bird, I read for both parts. I read for the Lucas Hedges part and the part I ended up doing. And I was just dying to work with Greta because, as Saoirse said, she just gave off this incredible vibe. And there's that whole generation of New York filmmakers, like Greta, but the Safdie brothers, Ari Aster, Robert Eggers, who came up there too, you know, that were like all doing really unique work that seemed to have come up together. But Greta was like the sort of one of the ones I really wanted to work with. I got the call and I remember being not surprised, but Lady Bird was so in Greta's voice. Now she's proven with Little Women and Barbie that everything's in her voice. But I remember I was ignorant to how special what I thought was the 9th version of something. I'm probably exaggerating, but there had been many versions prior. But I just wanted to get involved with Greta, and she was very persuasive.
I thought it was also a surprise for her off the back of Lady Bird, which was it became this sort of like indie darling movie, which is so beloved, and we had no idea even to this day how beloved it was going to become. To then follow on from that with an American literary classic that had been remade so many times, and in a way it's sort of, not with every version, but it did kind of feel a little bit twee. Like Little Women was starting to feel a bit like it's a bunch of girls and it's Christmas time and all they want to do is fall in love and get married. And that was sort of my take on it, just based on my memory of seeing other versions of it. It was always wonderful, but I was like, what's this director going to do with that? And as you say, in the way that every brilliant filmmaker does, they can take something which the source material, which we kind of rediscovered through making the movie, is so unbelievably brilliant and revolutionary. But it took, I think, Greta's voice and her vision to help us to see that. And it was the same with Barbie, and it'll be the same with Narnia and everything that she does in the future. It's like, it's always a surprise, and she'll never disappoint because she's so herself as a filmmaker, which is surprisingly hard to come by. And
she was so fired up, I remember. So I remember just trusting that, how fired up she was about the material, and she said she always wanted to do it. Lady Bird and Little Women, it was just such a fascinating, so I look back on them so fondly in different ways, because you talk in terms of career. I don't want to say like, I don't want to be too self-referential or reverential to Saoirse or Florence, but everyone was sort of like at a genesis, you know? Beautiful Boy was coming out at that time, and that was basically like the second quote-unquote big-ish movie I was in, and I was having a hard time getting, you know, people on the phone to help me figure out my schedule, where I was going to go, you know, and I wanted to kind of do a regional tour and visit places in the States that were affected by that story, you know, so the intent was pure. But I was in my trailer, and I only got a call at a certain time. So, and my hair and makeup was quick on that movie. It was like a 10-minute, you know, jump in, whatever, and I was out. So I guess I was supposed to be in the chair at a certain time, and I wasn't. But I was on the phone trying to do this thing, and I get this bang on my trailer door, like really intensely. And I'm thinking someone died. And I opened the door, and it's Saoirse in a bald cap. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And she was like, get your ass in the fucking trailer right now. Like, they're waiting for you in the hair and makeup. And I always just love that memory, you know? I just love it.
And are you on time now?
I'm on time all the time.
Good.
Yeah, all the time. All the time.
That's what's so nice, I think, about us all being at this point in our life and in our career. I was saying this to friends of mine the other day that, you know, we made a movie together like 7 years ago, that we've all got like history together now, you know? We've made more than one movie together, and we're all sort of like growing up with one another, and we'll dip back in every few years and we can catch up, and that's what's so kind of beautiful about this point in our lives. We're really, really lucky that, you know, the two of us and the other people that we've mentioned are doing really well, and our paths can kind of continue to cross. I think that's why I'm really grateful to people like Greta as well, because she's very much like Denis as well. She's very much a believer in like bringing a company of actors together, and I know that like she'll always want us to come back together and work with one another again.
You know, I figured you'd love me, Joe. And I realize I'm not half good enough, and I'm not this great man, and...
Yes, you are. You're a great deal too good for me, and I'm so grateful to you, and I'm so proud of you, and I don't see why I can't love you as you want me to. I don't know why.
I love in that Little Women scene how we had so much room to play, and we're just all over the place there. I think they put the camera on a track, and we were just like all over the place. We weren't limited to any sort of blocking. I remember rehearsing that with Greta and Saoirse in Amy Pascal's house before the movie started, and Greta had us rehearse it once, and she said, okay, I don't want to go near this because this already feels locked and loaded. It makes me nostalgic for those movies, but also, I don't know how you feel, but I'm also like, you know, happy to be older in some way, because I kind of see where we both were at in life. Not in any tragic way, but you're figuring yourself out in your early 20s.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning of a career, it's also overwhelming. That's why I'm grateful to Saoirse, period, because she's always had my back.
We had like maybe half an hour, 45 minutes to shoot that scene. We were chasing the light. They wanted to get magic hour, so we had like no time to shoot it. And somehow the energy of that, and knowing that it was almost like going on stage for like half an hour, all of this energy that we'd stored up was just going to go into this thing, and it really felt like two actors and two people who were very much sort of in each other's corner, you know, creatively and personally, and I think that's what I've always felt from working with you. We've obviously gone off to make other projects away from each other, but I've not really had an experience acting with anyone else like I have done with you, whether it's on set or in real life, and it really keeps me awake and alert, and it keeps me very creative. So there's a real sort of like aliveness, I think, when I work with Timothy. That's how I feel.
Wow, man.
It's nice.
Yeah, that's really moving. I just want to take that in.
It was so exciting to watch you as Bob Dylan. I could tell that like you'd put so much work into it, and the craft was there mixed with like the magic, which was so great. I was watching it and I was like, I've forgotten that I'm watching you, but it didn't feel like I was watching a movie about Bob Dylan. I felt like I was watching this young man who knew his own mind, but he was like still like open to the world around him, and it sounded like this voice that I've grown up listening to, but also you'd added so much of yourself to it. It was so beautiful.
This was getting very overwhelming.
But yeah, I'd imagine that was hard, was it?
Yeah, I mean, I just fell in love with the process and the young man that is Bob, and it's honestly very moving here, and it's just weird. It feels like worlds colliding because I feel like I stumbled into Lady Bird definitely and Little Women, so. And the process on Bob was really like a individual one for years. Not that it was lonely, but I was alone, so to hear my sister in many ways commend that is really moving to me.
Want to use this beauty?
They always keep it handy, huh, Pete? He's like a gunfighter with a 6-gun, always keeping it close. Oh, the time will come up when the winds will stop and the breeze will cease to be breathing. Like the stillness in the wind for the hurricane begins, the hour that the ship comes in.
There was this whole war on the movie in a sense of using pre-records or doing the music live, and I was always in the camp of wanting to do it live because it's folk music, and Bob Dylan certainly wasn't matching his voice, you know, so I didn't want to be matching me mimicking Bob Dylan in a studio in LA 6 months before we shot, because I had to be respectful of all the work that we had done in the preparation. But Edward Norton was always in my ear too, saying, "You sound better live, do it live." So that gave me good ammo. But once you get into the Church of Bob, it's hard not to revere what an incredible artist this man is and was, especially in this period when he was, you know, we were talking about Lady Bird and Little Women before, where you talk about press opportunities and stuff we were going through. You watch his early press stuff, and he's combative and confrontational and subtle and peculiar, and I don't want to be a smudge on that legacy.
I mean, I know for us making the Outrun, because we produced it as well, so we know that there are traps that you can fall into, like you get kind of drowned out almost by the real person, and you're trying to find that gorgeous harmony between the two. I think what's nice in both these cases is that we're playing creatives. So I don't know what Bob was like, but I know with Amy Liptrot, who I play, the art and the project and what her work and her life was going to turn into was more important than capturing every sort of element of her personality. She just wanted it to have the feeling of her story. So we had a real sort of meeting of minds, I think, from the very beginning, out of respect for one another's work, that we would combine both of our personalities and our worlds and our voices and how we moved and everything.
I don't even recognize you anymore. I wish you were a completely different person.
Don't say that.
I can't do this.
What do you mean you can't do this?
I just can't do this.
Did I do that to you? I'll never do that again, right? Whatever I did, I'll never do it again. I'm never gonna drink again. I promise you, right? Because I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose you.
There was a lot of that experience, even though I haven't been through it myself, but I've watched people I love go through it and have sort of received the energy off of that. And you do repress it, or you don't deal with it in a kind of healthy way, and it just sort of turns into like anger and confusion and frustration. And so to be able to actually take all of that and rework it and to put it into something productive and something that I could kind of see in front of me was really helpful, actually. But also that's just why I do this. I do it because it feels good for me to get that out and to be able to take any sort of messy emotion that you have and sort of give it some alignment, give it some shape, control it in a way, so that it doesn't get out of control within you is I think if what we do is used in the right way, it's a very healthy occupation to have if you use it in the right way. So I loved it. I enjoy getting it all out.
Was there a point in this business where you had to decide, like, this is my career and not just a childhood hobby?
Yeah, I think for me it was really clear because I was put on the sort of traditional American academic path, you know, and didn't know why. It was very peculiar to me that I was paying money to be somewhere I didn't want to be. You know, it was around when I was 18 or 19. I had enough momentum with my acting stuff. I thought, okay, it's sort of now or never. And this is not prescriptive. Whatever works for anyone works. But I felt like if I had a plan B or if I was working towards a plan B, my plan A would be ruined. Because I've been doing it on and off for years, you know. I don't want to speak for Saoirse, but I think she was more full-time earlier than I was.
I was doing it from so young that it was just sort of a part of me. It was a part of how I saw the world. It was a huge source of education for me. Like, I definitely had moments. I remember distinctly that the first one was on Atonement when I was 12, and I did my first crying scene, which is a big moment for any actor when they realise they can cry, and people love it when you cry. You always get a round of applause. And it was something that I never had to, you know, a kid never has to do that on cue. And I got to do that. I remember that myself and the director had to really work on what this was going to be and craft it. And through my dialogue with him, something came out of that was new for me. And that really felt like acting at that point. And I think your idea of what acting is actually changes depending on where you're at in your life. But that's what it felt like at that point. And I remember going, this is what I'm gonna do forever.
Is there a specific movie genre that you haven't yet explored but you would like to?
Musical. I really want to do a musical.
Oh man, you gotta do a musical.
I know.
What musical would you do?
Wicked. I can't stop thinking about Wicked. I love it so much. I don't know, maybe an original. I would like to do a biopic of someone, but I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want someone else to steal it.
But you already have it in mind?
Yeah.
Is alive?
Yeah.
Do they know you want to do it?
No.
Interesting.
It's Bob Dylan.
The fuck? No.
No,
No.
he's mine.